Okay, this is kind of cool. John Dong was kind of making a comment about something that he and I were talking about earlier. We were talking about guitar amplifiers and the inner workings of the guitar amplifier and so forth. And there is an amplifier that has a fan pointed at the tubes. And I forget if it's Mesa Boogie or somebody else, but it doesn't really matter. Um, I always thought that was strange. I was like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't actually make sense to put a fan on tubes. I was thinking, well, you have a vacuum. There's no thermal conduction. So it'd be pointless to put a fan on the tube. And but yet the glass envelope gets really hot. And I think maybe it was this forum, but someone posted pictures of tubes that had a paper label on it, and the paper label's burnt. So clearly it's pretty fucking hot. The glass envelope is pretty fucking hot. And clearly it's coming from the inside of the tube because it only gets hot when you operate the tube. That's common sense. But you can't conduct heat through a vacuum, So that would based on that alone, that would mean the only way the heat could get to the outside of the glass envelope is like through the pins of the tube and all that. But that just doesn't really seem like it's a lot of surface area. But at the time when I just kind of wrote it and didn't think too much about it, I was just like, well, it must be working. It doesn't seem like it would be that way, but it must be working. But I made a little discovery. It's not heat. It's not thermal conduction, it's thermal radiation. It's electromagnetic radiation. That can go through a vacuum. It has to. If it didn't, none of our satellites would be able to communicate with us. That's using electromagnetic waves. If it didn't work, light from the sun wouldn't come to us. That's electromagnetic radiation. So what's happening is you have infrared leaving the cathode, and you have infrared leaving radiating from the plate, and it goes through the space, almost no matter inside the vacuum. It goes through that, no problem at all, and then it gets absorbed into the glass envelope, and it's getting hot. But you know what that means? I was right in the first place. The fan on the tube doesn't do a damn thing to cool it down. Not a damn thing. And no one knows this. Is that just a gas or what? It's just amazing what you find out when you just kind of stick your nose in something else. But yeah, I think having a fan in there is not a bad idea. I mean, you could cool other components like capacitors and things like that, in particular the electrolytics. They're always in danger of drying out. I mean, that's why when you have an electrolytic, it's a plus 80%, minus 20% tolerance. It's always going to be more capacitance when they're brand new because they tend to dry out. Of course, now these days we have a lot of modern capacitors, like the poly capacitors. But that's a completely different topic. I'll try not to get distracted here. But anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. It wasn't until this moment right now, it's midnight, that I solved it. I figured it out. It didn't make sense to me to put a fan on a tube, You just look at a thermos. I mean, a thermos has a vacuum in it, and the reason why they have the vacuum between in the jacket is so that the hot liquid cannot conduct the heat away. That's thermal conduction. And thermal conduction requires mass. That's how it transfers its heat. And oh, by the way, just so you know, there is something called black body radiation, so everything emits something in that spectrum. But it's less than it's very little. For coffee, it's not going to be that much. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone really cares. Really, nothing I say makes anybody happy. I'm not wanted here. But anyway, I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm not exactly sure what John Dong was saying. I kind of have a hard time reading his paragraph. It's a bit awkward to read or something. But he kind of wrote, I don't know what his knowledge of amp design is, but I have the convos we were having, and then go right into discussions about heat transfer and tubes, PCBs, point-to-point. Kind of odd to me. I don't know. Why did that strike you as odd? It seemed pretty fluid. It was just sort of a passing thought because I saw the fan on the tubes and I was like, that's not going to cool the tube down. I mean, it'll cool down the glass envelope, but that doesn't really do anything good. It's not cooling the inner workings of the tube down. At best, the fan might blow onto the capacitors and stuff. But I mean, if you look at the pictures that I saw, the fan is on the outside. The components are on the inside of the chassis, and the fan was on the outside of the chassis, pointed at the tubes. Yeah, I guess people that design guitar amplifiers don't really have a physics background.